And it might have a hard time because I'm sending it to 3. I could tell the... Hey, True Believers, England team here with Dalton the Authenticator.
Hello, everyone.
All righty. I watched it today. Just got back. Man, I got to tell you, I was riding a high, in all honesty. Black Adam came out today. We've seen the previews. I got to tell you something before we get started here. I really appreciate the people who cut together that preview, because everything you see in that preview is within the first 15 minutes, maybe 20.
Yeah, at the very least within the first half an hour.
Yeah, it's just, but point being is there's so much you have not seen about this movie. And I will stand by that thumbnail I put up in the title. This is a bait and switch movie. Do not even let anyone tell you differently. Of all the bait and switches we've seen with Loki and with Hawkeye, I didn't think that was a bait and switch, but I know some people did. All these freaking shows coming out and bait and switching the audience. I went in wanting a Black Adam movie, and instead I got a Justice Society movie. Thank you, freaking DC Comics Films. I don't care. That was freaking awesome.
I have to say, I've been saying for years that DC should make Golden Age period pieces and have the capstone be Justice Society because Marvel can't touch DC in the Golden Age. But, you know, this wasn't a period piece as much as I would have liked it to have been. But I did get my freaking Justice Society movie after all of these years.
It was so much. Okay, granted, I want to see the Sandman and I want to see Jay Garrick and the whole 9 yards. And I hope we do get that movie also. But what you see there, of course, from the previews, Dr. Fate's in it, Hawkman is in it, and a couple of the new Jeff Johns characters, Atom Smasher,
Cyclone and Atom Smasher.
And and look, here's the let's get this particular what do you call it, elephant in the room out of the way also, because of course, hey, it's another race swap. In this case, it's a gender side thing where Cyclone's got to be right. She did fine, but in all honesty, Cyclone's also the most useless character in the film. That had more than 3 lines.
And it's not noticeable. They didn't turn her into a mouthpiece character.
Oh no, not at all.
That's the major problem with
not at all. The only if I had any big complaint, really, it would be that they didn't do too much with the character, or the character of Atom Smasher was kind of the comic relief. But it fit. But once again, I think the character of Cyclone kind of was the one that suffered the most as far as all this, because they gave her a couple of lines, but I'll tell you what, her action scenes were done very well.
Yeah, this is a very briskly paced, action heavy movie. The pace is very quick moving. I think they could have added maybe 20 minutes and slowed it down and given a little bit more character here and there, and it would have benefited things.
Now, one thing I thought right off the bat, when I'm watching this, I said, why? Okay, so the thing is, I can recognize that this is not a great film. Okay, when I'm seeing the script, when I'm seeing things play out, I'm like, this is very almost paint by the numbers. Why am I liking this?
It's very sloppy.
Why am I enjoying this more than I think I should? And I realize it's paced like a comic book. It really is paced like a comic book. There's not too much dialogue outside of the plot. Granted, everything services the plot. It moves along very quickly. You have your quiet moment that leads right into your action moment, and there's a lot of action moments in this, and there's
a lot of exposition as well, which again, it's an origin movie, so of course there's going to be some exposition,
right? Of course. And that is, I think that's one of the reasons why I like it. Even in those exposition scenes, you get action, whether it's, of course, the revolt, whether it's, somebody doing something to another character, so forth and so on. But otherwise, I mean, it is so well paced.
They talk while they're in the middle of laying biblical levels of smackdown on each other.
Exactly. MK saying he saw it, loved it. The Rotten Tomato critics are on drugs. I know, what the hell? It came out as like 40%.
Yeah, I'm just sitting
Oh
here
my
like,
gosh.
I'm sorry, but what movie were y'all watching? Because the movie I was watching was very flawed, but I mean, damn.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say this, and I understand a lot of people will just say, well, that's not a really high bar there, Englentine, but I'm going to say it anyway. Aside from maybe, what is it? The Return Home or No Way Home or whatever it's called. I think this is better than every Marvel project in the 4.
I'll throw Werewolf by Night and Multiverse of Madness in.
Well, I
above
wouldn't do
this,
that one,
though.
but I'll agree with you by where I think this was better than Werewolf by Night, in all honesty. But I think Werewolf by Night was very good. It's just I really do got to tell you, wow, I enjoyed the hell out of this. But it's I got to say, if this is the direction that DC Comics is going to take, thank you. Okay, I don't mind a comic book movie. I just don't. Yo, so a serious question. Who trusts Rotten Tomato critics? I don't, in all honesty.
Nope.
Even before the Captain Marvel stuff, I would look at the audience score, but I don't trust the critics.
I have a tendency of averaging the scores together. Like I'll take the critic score and the audience score and I'll average them together, and that usually gives me a better measure of what the quality actually is, quote unquote. But in this case, what I think it is the critics are, and this is my problem with art criticism or film criticism in general these days, they're so obsessed with the meta logic and the meta themes that they could not begin to understand that the value of the thing is in universe logic. It's in like you care about the characters for the character's sake, not for the sake of what they do for grandiose themes or socio-political gobbledygook or insert, utilitarian agenda here. And to be fair, I think this is, to say nothing else, it's one of the best uses of actual political subtext I've seen in a movie in a while, especially a blockbuster type movie, because they easily could have turned this into the Kandakians are oppressed, but they didn't. They made a interesting philosophical / political point using Kandak, and they didn't turn it into and now let's lecture you about social justice for 20 minutes. They turned it into that's an interesting point I'm going to have to think about for a minute here. Which is how you're supposed to do philosophy or politics in these type of movies.
I will say this, and I know this might get me in trouble here, but I actually like the way they handled Black Adam's journey to anti-heroism than they did in the comics. Black Adam's never had his redemption, kids. He's committed genocide. He's done some horrible things.
He is not a good person, folks.
He's not. He's a villain. He's a flat out villain.
This is what happens when you give a vengeful slave
and he's
powers to do whatever he wants.
He's never really had his redemption arc, and yet now we have like Superman inviting him to the Justice League. And it's because, oh, well, he's not really bad because he's protecting conduct. No, he's really bad. He's a freaking villain. He is a villain, period.
There are more deaths in this movie of random civilian characters than there is in a slasher movie. As in, you could compare Halloween Ends to this movie. There are more violent deaths in this movie than there were in Halloween Ends.
Yeah, but in the movie, they do give him an arc. So when he is this villain / hero to the people of conduct, it makes sense. The rest of the world, they see what he can be, and you do get that. The whole reason the whole reason the Justice Society is in this is because it was a request from Amanda Waller, because she knew who he was, knew all about him. He was awoken, and she said, "Yeah, this one's really harsh. We need some big."
Amanda is doing what Amanda always does and pulling the strings behind the scenes like Amanda Waller's supposed to do. You know, vis-a-vis the Cadmus story arc in Justice League Unlimited, if anyone remembers that from when they were kids, like I do.
And so she sends the JSA after him. Of course, we've seen this in previews. We're still on the non-spoiler part. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but in just a touch, we're going to. But it was kind of cool to have them out for that reason. Of course, Hawkman's the hot temper guy. You see it in the previews. And I think at first I thought, guy, come on, you know, you're being a little bit too Amanda Waller. And but after a while, I really enjoyed the use of Hawkman. I'm kind of trying to pick my words so I don't say too much. I liked him. I liked seeing his powers. Just shot. I mean, it's not just the wings, kids. You know, that's basically it. And also, I don't know when it was that they started giving Hawkman near Superman level strength, but okay, I'm good.
My only issue was I was expecting him to pull out the mace because
he did have the mace.
No, but what I mean is, as everyone knows, one of the abilities, especially lately, that Nth Metal has is the ability to disrupt magic. Like, they made a specific point of referencing this with Shigeru in Justice League Unlimited, if anyone remembers.
But, okay, so we're going to get to spoilers in just a little bit, so I have a comment on that one.
Yeah, I was expecting them to use that as kind of an equalizer for Hawkman, but they didn't end up focusing on that, which quibbles. But
we spoke a little bit about Cyclone. I want to talk about a little bit on Atom Smasher. Of course, Cyclone and Atom Smasher really are the side character superheroes. You got a couple of side characters as far as just human, regular human, and then you've got the side characters. The Atom Smasher, they used him as the comic relief. He is useful in at least one situation, but he is the comic relief, and he was okay. He was fine.
He's also cute. My gaydar was going off quite nicely when he was on screen.
I gotta say, she's way too young, but the Cyclone girl, she's very pretty. And one thing that might annoy some people, though, is that when she uses her powers, they do this thing kind of Zack Snyder-y, where it's like, woo! And then they'll like slow-mo on her inside the tornado she's created. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
Motion.
But I've got to tell you, The Rock did great as Black Adam. He wasn't The Rock. You may be hearing that. I'm sorry, but no, he was Black Adam. But the one that stood out, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Can we get that movie, please? I loved him as this character.
It doesn't take much for me to say Dr. Fate movie when, but yeah, Dr. Fate movie when? Question mark. Right?
Every scene Pierce Brosnan is in, and let's face it, he is he's the statesman as far as the actors are concerned in this movie. He's been around for a while. He knows his craft. Every scene he is in, that scene is just that much better. Yeah. And I'm not fanboying here. I'm telling the absolute truth that Pierce Brosnan is Dr. Fate. I could watch an entire movie of him.
You want to talk some Dr. Fate fanboying? We'll get into some Dr. Fate fanboying, because I was absolutely terrified when I heard they were going to use Dr. Fate, because almost no one uses Dr. Fate well. And you got to understand my point of reference when it comes to this, guys. Dr. Fate is, without contest, my favorite superhero character in any comic book universe. No. And yet, he is also the magic user character that gets beaten to hell by inept retconning more so than just about any other character. Well, I was so happy that they never once referenced the possession retcon. I really hate the possession retcon. Kent is just as important to Dr. Fate as is the helmet.
Well, they did reference
make a point of reference to that.
They did reference it. They just never played it up. I mean, even he was still him underneath the helmet, or you know, but they did reference it, about the helmet and about the fact that
there's a scene later once we get into spoilers that they kind of allude to, but I'm willing to chalk that up to the fact that number one, if they kept the comic book backstory, which they kind of leave ambiguous here for Hawkman, but if they kept the comic book backstory, it's possible that he has some magical knowledge of his own. And also, they heavily imply that Kent is a mentor figure, or was at some point a mentor figure to Carter, and they've heard the chimes at midnight several times over. So who knows what Carter's been able to pick up over the years of working with Kent. So I'm fine with what happens there, but we'll get into that when we get into it.
Do we feel it was closer to the books with Black Adam full circle from villain to more? Well, I've talked a little bit about that. So yeah, I think the movie, it was actually done better because he's never gotten his redemption arc in the comics. Also, let's see, I think Amanda Waller should be fat. I think Viola Davis is kind of that in between. I think she does fine. She's a great actress. Poor choice of poor script chooser though, right? This Hawkman reminded me in some ways of Smallville's with his temperament. I think Hawkman, even in the comic books, he was a bit of a hothead. Rhaegar saying, not knowing much about DC, I used to always think Hawkman was a joke. Read his books. Hawkman is one of those characters that's never had a bad run. It's just a lot of people think the same way as you, Rhaegar, where, you know, Hawkman is like Aquaman. Aquaman has never been in a bad
Hawkman
comic.
Is where Aquaman was before the movie right now.
Well, Aquaman never got respect before his movie, and or at least until Jeff Johns took him in the 52. But the thing is, he's never had a bad comic book. So yeah, I do recommend Hawkman. I do recommend Aquaman as well. Adam Smasher the newbie. Yeah, basically you get a scene at the beginning where he's talking to his uncle, and we'll talk about that in the spoiler section in just a moment. But where it's like he's on his way to his first mission, and he talks to his uncle, the Atom, the Golden Age Atom. I really want to talk about who they got.
The way they play Adam Smasher is kind of a mix between Giant Man version of Ant-Man in the MCU and Colossus from the X-Men movies. That's kind of how they play him.
But yeah,
and so I think it works. But in regards to the Smallville point, I think this movie took a lot of inspiration in how it portrayed the Justice Society from the Smallville two-parter. And I'm not upset about it at all.
All righty. Look, you already got it mainly by the first 5 or 6 seconds of this video. I love this film. I really do. I don't know where I would put it in my list of best of DC's live action and all that. I just had a blast with it. Look, this is a flawed movie. Make no mistake about that. But the thing is the flaws are in the parts that are between the cool shit, and there's a lot of cool shit. There's more to have fun with here than there is to lament, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think it's extremely flawed, and thus I put it between Shazam and Wonder Woman in my ranking list. But it's actually a lot like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, to the point where I can see the flaws, and my word is it clunky in places. And the main problem here, I think, is the script writing and the pacing to some degree.
Yeah, but you put it at number 6. Now, guys, listen to his top 5: Joker, Suicide Squad 2, The Batman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. Those are freaking awesome films. So it's one of those things. Like I dig your placement. The movies there, it seems not so much to its weakness, but to the strengths of others.
Yeah,
if you're ranking like the top 10 greatest films of all time, you might have a number 10 that would beat
everything else except for this
that ever existed. Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the DC movies go, it's better than the Snyder Cut. It's better than Dawn of Justice. It's better than Wonder Woman 1984. It's better than all of the inarguably bad ones, obviously. it's just not quite. It doesn't have quite the same heart as Wonder Woman, and that's what ultimately demoted it for me. But I think in terms of being able to go balls to the wall DC lore and just the sheer fun factor, it's better than Shazam, and that's why I stuck it between Wonder Woman and Shazam on my top 10 list.
Ed's asking us, would we see it again, or are we willing to wait for a streaming platform? I don't know if he sailed the 7 seas. I did not. I would see this on the big screen again.
I did in fact sail the 7 seas, yo-ho. But because I wanted to see it a couple days early, and they never are very good at filtering out cameras at those fan events that they have. So I was able to see it a couple days early.
Yeah, but you see it, it's a cam film and it's about that big, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're used to frequently yo-hoing,
now
it's it's not as bad. I would see it in the theater if I get the chance to.
The theater I go to, I know I don't get the IMAX and all this, but I've got a mom and pops, right? And it's got an old theater. They used to do Rocky Horror. They used to do concerts and so forth. So I always get either the first row or the second row. So I don't have anything bothering me. There's nobody's cell phones, nothing like that in front of me. It's just me and the screen, because I still have the length of the stage before the screen, and it's beautiful. I want that shit in my face. You know, I just don't want any
injected into my veins.
Yeah, and that's why I like going there even over some of the more high tech stuff, because I want that relationship with the screen. I do not want the relationship with that guy over there playing Pokemon
He wants
Go,
to get up close
that
and
girl
personal
texting
with
the boy. Yeah, I don't want to see in my peripheral. And if like anytime somebody sits down and pulls their phone out, I'd say, you are going to turn that off soon, right? I don't ask them. I don't ask them in a way like, hey, could you please? No, you are going to be doing this. That's the way I put on the daddy voice, because I love that. And yes, I would see Black Adam on the big screen the way it's supposed to be seen as soon as freaking possible.
Yeah, the way I usually go to the movies when I go to the movies is I wait until the hype has died down a little bit so that the theater is almost empty. So that way there is none of the idiotic shenanigans of people. When we get to that, I probably will be seeing this in the theater.
But let's face it, we have a comic book channel. I've got a comic book channel. We have the movie channel here. We have to see these movies early so we can talk about them. But on that point, though, we should move into spoiler territory.
We should, yes.
I know we're going to lose some of you guys, but I want to talk a little bit about this. We've been talking for actually about 3 minutes more than what I wanted to on the non-spoilerly.
If you guys have seen our reviews of things before, you know the first 20 minutes or so are usually the non-spoiler review, and then the preceding about 40 minutes are...
Well, I'm hoping it's not that long. I don't know I don't think we're going to summarize the movie this time around, but I do want to speak about some things freely. I always sit in the wheelchair spot in the middle, nobody ever there near me. The place right behind where the wheelchairs park, it's usually like a railing so you can put your feet up. That's perfect in AMC's. There's enough room in front and back of me, plus if I have to pee, yeah, I can see why you would do that. Okay, so how are we going to do this one? So obviously you've seen the preview. They show, I was a slave before I was this takes very much off the Jeff Johns. I don't know if you've seen the Jeff Johns Shazam
Yeah,
story.
the New 52 stuff.
Yeah, it was in the back of the Justice League. It takes very much from that. If you have read that, then there's no big twist at the end. If you haven't, there is. And of course, they go through the whole slavery thing, and they say that he got the powers of the Wizards Council, and he goes in.
Yes, it ties into Shazam.
Yeah, and they basically frees all of his people, and he becomes the hero of Kahndaq. And this is something, when Shazam shows up in modern day, there's actually a statue of him, which he looks kind of forlornly at it. He's just and you'd think, okay, so what's up with that? And I got to tell you, I kind of dug this scene. I like all the scenes from the past, but it really does pick up when it comes to modern day.
Mm-hmm.
The action, I was kind of like, one thing I don't like is somebody wasting bullets on Superman. You know, it's like, okay, let me put in a new clip. Why?
Yeah, it's like, guys,
why put in the next clip?
You've seen that he's invulnerable to firearms. Enough with the bullets already. It bounces off of them like rain. You don't. This is not helping.
So it's it was something, and I said this when I saw the preview too. When he grabs onto the first guy, and everybody watches him, and you've seen it in one of the first clips they ever shown. He electrocutes this guy. You don't see what actually happens.
Reduces him to ash in his hand with lightning.
It reduces him to ash very wetly. I mean, it was like he's like, yeah, and you just see like muscle and blood just kind of drip down before he turns to ash.
And then he crushes the skull.
So yeah, so the scene you saw on TV is a little bit different in the movie. And from that point on, I just wanted to see one of those guys go, nah, I'm out of here. I want to see that smart henchman.
Yeah, it's like that one scene in Batman the Animated Series where one of the henchmen comes across Batman hiding in the shadows, and it's like, nope, not today, nope. Like Batman just gives him this little nod of like, okay, you're fine, you're not here today. Or in John Wick where he's talking to the bouncer, and it's like, are you here to do business, sir? Yes, I am. I'm just not going to be here tonight. Okay.
But then he goes through, I'm going to destroy everything mode. Anybody who fights him, he saves the person who released the lady who released him, and he just goes nutso on everybody else. And for the next, let's say 15 freaking minutes, you get nothing but destruction.
Yeah, Homelander ain't got shit on Black Adam, folks.
This movie is an action film. This isn't your typical superhero, we got to throw a whole bunch of, I'm a sad boy drama in it. This is an action movie that they would have shown in the freaking 80s. And I loved it for it. This is an 80s action superhero film, okay? Meaning it starts with action and it ends with action. And in between, they have a lot of freaking action.
Yeah, it's very
freaking minutes.
It's very on the go. You know, from the point at which the action starts, and now please enjoy the next 120 minutes of action.
And the weird thing is for like 8 or 9 of those minutes, he's moving in slow motion. Like they fire a rocket at him, and he catches it, and he just goes like this. Or he'll move something out of the way, and he's doing it. It's basically the scene.
The rocket is like
it's basically the X2 scene, you know, or whatever it was. That one, or no, it was you know which one I'm talking about.
The Quicksilver scenes from the X-Men movies, the most recent ones.
Because he goes through and he's causing all sorts of destruction, including at one point, I believe he hits somebody, and then as he's passing, you see time speed up to the point of realism. Somebody liquefies. It was it's just a very violent film as well. And I gotta tell you, man, thank you for it. Thank you.
Yeah, they don't quite go Invincible levels, but they certainly, again, Homelander ain't got shit on Black Adam.
Yeah. So he does his thing. He saves this woman and her son. Can we talk about that son for a second? Look, I get it. Kid, we've
child actor,
dude. Look, Shazam, all of the kids did well. All the kids did their parts well. I liked them. This kid, how old is he related to somebody? If we look up his name, are we gonna see like director name boom, his name boom, and we're gonna find out that he's the director's son? How the hell did he get this role? Okay, there's a scene at the end.
Behold the child acting.
This would have been the audition scene to me. There's a scene at the end where he's got the rah, okay, people, we could do this scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, guys, remember the revolution. and okay, everything's gonna be fine. This is their thing right here. Okay, that's their remember the revolution. It's good, you know, the revolution. Instead of being like inspirational, it's like, okay, like
Yeah, no, even the
does
little
anybody want
girl
to
in
tell
V
him
for
him
Vendetta
his
was better
mom?
than this.
Does anybody want to tell this kid's mother that if he goes one country over, he's gonna be thrown off a building? No, really? Okay. It's just he was so weak, this kid.
And to be fair, the reason why he was in here as often as he was, because I did feel he was in here longer than he had any right to be, was they were trying to go for a John in T2 relationship between him and the T800. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to
that was
establish a
done
relationship.
okay. I'm talking about every time this kid opens his mouth to say a line. It reminded me of
it doesn't work if the kid in question is insufferable and or bland.
In Phantom Menace, they had, if you ever got the DVD with all the extras and everything, they had auditions, like other people who auditioned for the roles. And when you see the one for Anakin, you wonder, why did what's his name? Jake Lloyd get the he was horrible. He wasn't good. I'm sorry that people, and I think it was wrong that he got picked on for it, but it was
George Lucas's attempts to be Shakespearean is what ultimately nerfed all the acting in the prequels.
It didn't fit. Well, okay, so there's something there is an element that comes from it's a magical element, and it was what the slaves were looking for the king to create the crown of Sabak. Okay, so in this battle, at the end, Black Adam, you've seen it in the previews, he catches a rocket. The guy goes, yeah, I can't believe he caught a rocket, and it explodes. This hurts Adam. So we know that there's an element out there that can hurt Black Adam. And the lady and this guy who are in the van take him back to their place. He wakes up and the kid's there, and he's trying to tell him about superheroes, and this is Kahndaq. And Black Adam looks out the window, and he's like, this is not my home. He said, this is Kahndaq. It's your home. He says, my home is gone. And so he turns around and he walks through the wall. I love that bit because he didn't even notice the couch he was pushing with his legs, but he just just walks through the wall.
Like, oh, by the way, I'm indestructible. Why do I care? is the vibe.
Yeah, and he decides, okay, he's gonna fly. He's gonna leave, but the lady's trying to get to him about, hey, you should be the protector, yada yada. And so he goes on about his business, and that's when Intergang, who is occupying Kahndaq, starts to attack. And while they're doing that, the JSA comes down. Wait, no, the JSA comes down and they do their little thing, and then Kahndaq, or the Intergang, attack. The fight between Black Adam and the JSA, I am so happy that they didn't one punch the JSA to show that Black Adam was powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkman gets in some good hits. Dr. Fate gets in some good magic. And even Cyclone does her thing. Atom Smasher's the one that ends it, which I kind of liked, because if you're gonna make him only the butt of the joke, then you wonder why he's on the team anyway.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse though. Again, it's a mixture of Giant Man in the MCU and Colossus in the X-Men movies is where we're at with him.
So yeah, he did have that moment and all, and it was done fine. And but of course it's Black Adam's movie, so he's going to be the one that comes out on top. There's a later fight though, and I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed this. Yeah, we'll talk about this. Let me say one more thing about Atom Smasher, because this is something I thought was so freaking cool. So before, and I know it's just a cameo and it means nothing. They're never going to make a movie with him because he's damn near 80, I guess. But the guy who played Al Pratt would be almost the same height as Al Pratt in the books, because they got Henry Winkler to play the Golden Age Atom. And I was like, oh, I want that. Can we go back to the 70s and make that movie?
Can we has a Justice Society period piece, please?
Yes. Can we go back to the 1970s and just have Henry Winkler star as the original Atom?
And Pierce Brosnan's Kent Nelson is old enough that you could dial it back and have a Kent Nelson in his prime
that was
be Dr.
so
Fate
cool.
as well as this.
He's like, yeah, hi, Uncle Al. And it was Henry Winkler. And I'm like, oh, man, what a lost opportunity it would have been to have him. Because, Henry Winkler played the coolest man in the world for like 8 years. And he's like maybe 4 foot nothing. He's a really tiny guy, but goddamn. It was freaking awesome to see him there. Thank you very much. It's canon. Henry Winkler is the Atom, the Golden Age Atom. I just dug that. I know it's just
the only thing we were missing is where our Golden Age Green Lantern and Golden Age Sandman.
I'm still fanboying on the look. I was a child in the 70s. There was nobody cooler than Arthur Fonzarelli. Okay, so
yeah,
I love seeing Henry Winkler wherever he wants to show up. Seriously,
behold the Fonz, let us
exactly.
Aid. Yeah.
It was something. I remember Scream was like, "Hey, oh yeah, they did that to him." Oh. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his, and you know what? He does, in fact, in this film, get on his skis and jump shark. Thank you very much. I wasn't gonna reveal that spoiler, Rhaegar, but yes, that's exactly what happened. But no, it was really kind of cool. I like that little cameo that they had. One other thing they did very cool, in my opinion, is there's a fight, and yes, I'm skipping over stuff. I'm not gonna be like point by point. But when they do finish their battle with Intergang, they're back in the apartment of the mother and the kid. And Hawkman is pissed because Black Adam keeps killing people. So Hawkman decides, okay, I'm going to fight. 2 things cool that happens about this. Now, one, I got to explain. The kid loves superheroes. His entire room, Aquaman, Flash, Superman, all sorts of stuff all over the place, action figures, the whole 9 yards.
All the superheroes. He is geeking out all the ways.
So Hawkman and Black Adam are basically dick measuring, and then finally they start fighting. Kent Nelson, Dr. Fate, just literally opens a tin of Altoids, pops one in his mouth, and just sits there with his helmet and watches the whole thing. And if there was a part where the fight looked like it was going to roll over him, he just apparated and just moved to another part of the room.
There's this vibe of him is like, oh, children.
Yeah, it's like this one isn't even worth my time. And they're beating the shit. All I thought of was, you guys are destroying this lady's apartment. So they actually fight their way into the kids' room, and you see all the damage, like Hawkman's wings cut a Flash poster. But the coolest was they spin around and Black Adam goes to punch the Hawkman, and he punches through a Superman poster. So he does the Doomsday thing with his fist through it. And I was like, okay, good callback, guys. Good callback. All right. The fights are done very well. It just, God dang it, I like this. I'm talking myself into it. I want to go tomorrow. I want to see it again. Let's go see it again, guys.
Yeah. Again, this movie is fun, and again, speaking as one of the internet's foremost Dr. Fate fanboys, because again, he is my favorite Magic User character in all of comics. They don't disrespect my boy, and I was really worried about that. And they also keep the aspect of Kent Nelson, which is the most important, and Dr. Fate, which is the most important, which he is a perpetual voice of reason. Post the possession retcon in the comics, they made Naboo more and more alien, and the person wearing the helmet less and less important to the character. And it always has pissed me off, because the point of Dr. Fate is supposed to be, yes, he's a cosmic being. Yes, he has ungodly powers. Yes, he's various other things. But first and foremost, he is an agent of order and balance. and therefore his job is to be the wise old wizard in any given situation. He's the Gandalf. He's the, the voice of. He even in probably my favorite scene in Justice League Unlimited pulls rank wisdom wise with the Martian frickin' Manhunter in an episode called The Return. And by the way, that is the best use of Dr. Fate in any media ever. This doesn't quite come close to that, and I still, in my heart of hearts, prefer the way they use Dr. Fate in Smallville. But this is certainly a lot more respectful and a lot less retconned than I was expecting, and I needed it. I really needed it.
You know what? I think we've got the point across here. But one thing I do want to say is that one of the things that does make this film better than a lot of superhero, a lot of even the DC films, is that they never really tell you the world is going to be destroyed. It's Kahndaq. It's this one small place. More importantly, the person that's in peril a lot is the son of this mother you've been following around. And so the stakes are always more personal than a lot of what we get from the Marvel movies. And that keeps it grounded. And I think that keeps the audience attached to it.
Anglantine, you're gonna want to moderate the chat. There are bots aplenty going off in the chat that need banning.
Oh, are there any wrenches? Do we have any of the blue wrenches out there who can? No.
I think Maranya got one of them. I'm not sure about the other one.
Yeah, but I like that about this whole thing is the fact that they made sure that it was a personal story.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it just that much better. Okay, well, guess what? Hominus on my Old Man Comics channel is a moderator now. All righty, let's see. What do we got at the? Do we have anybody watching from the movie channel? Nope.
I believe the bots are no more. Ed has confirmed they're gone. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
and the bot. I saw a couple of bots on the Old Man Comics. So what's going on is I've got this going to 3 channels. Hominus is watching from Old Man Comics. Thank you very much. Nobody's watching from the movie channel, but and the rest are here. So yeah. But there you go. So I just made Hominus a moderator on the other channel. If he wants to take care of them, go right on ahead. I'll do my best otherwise. But yeah, it's more of a personal story, and it's made that much more fun for it. I only mentioned it once, but they got the crown of Sabak. And they know that that's what the inner gang is after. So while everybody else is fighting, we have the kid. He's given the crown to take home to hide somewhere, and one of the bad guys is there, and that he gets kidnapped. So it's all about let's save this kid. The stakes are really personal. Now let's talk about one of the bad things, and it's not a bad thing. It's just an unnecessary thing. They kind of wrap up the story, and then they continue it.
Yeah.
Like the last 10 minutes probably are not necessary. I mean, they're cool, and I liked them. And this is not a deal breaker in any way, shape, or form. But after
you could have ended the movie there and left that as like a post-credit scene or something.
Yeah, I'm going to, and we skipped a lot, so we didn't spoil the whole movie. What we talked about is probably the first 40 minutes. So there is still half a film that I'm not going to spoil for you, but except for this part. After they finish the main story, we get a little bit extra on the bad guy, and he comes back as Sabak. So Black Adam has another villain to fight, and I think it wasn't necessary. I think emotionally they finished the story.
Yeah, the necessary background on the MacGuffin is if a person who knows what they're doing wields this crown, it potentially has the power to rule the world. But if you misuse it, it's a doorway to hell. And the person who wears the crown in the third act misuses it, ergo, he becomes a demon. And hilarity of world-destroying proportions ensues.
Which brings us to the final part we'll talk about before we say adieu. And that is the closing credit scenes all of us have heard rumors of. And I'm happy to say the rumors are true. That we finally get Henry Cavill on the big screen as Superman again.
Yeah.
And it is awesome. So it's the end credit scene. And it starts off, Waller has a hologram. I don't know how she sent it, but she sends this kind of hologram message to Black Adam. And she says, okay, you broke out of my prison. Kahndaq is now your prison. And if you step out of it, I will put you down. And he says, no one on this planet can stop me. And she says, I'll make a few phone calls and call in a few favors, and I'll call in people from different planets.
Yeah, I have a person that's not from this planet, sir. That being said, as cool and as fan servicey as this post-credit scene is, I do have a slight problem with it, and that is this. I know The Rock wants to fight Superman. I know. And I know the fans want Henry Cavill. I know. But the problem I have with it is the prize fight, the Dragon Ball Z-esque prize fight that this should be is between Black Adam and the Shazam family, not Superman.
I agree. Okay, so to continue, this hologram goes up. There's a big old bunch of smoke kind of clouding, and you see a caped figure just kind of float down to the ground. And you hear him, and he says, you're the first person in a long time or something like that who has made the world nervous. And you get the music, dun, 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 and he steps out of the smoke, and it's him. And he says, we need to talk. And that's the whole thing. But it was just such a fanboy thing to finally see Henry Cavill back on the big screen as Superman. I don't know why Warner Brothers would be so stupid as to not make a Superman movie and not make a sequel and not have Henry Cavill when the world is telling them that's what they want.
Apparently, Henry Cavill is difficult to deal with on set is the issue there.
I did not know that. Actually, the only thing I've ever heard was the opposite. That's kind of something. MK saying, did you notice that the Intergang bikers were like cooler versions of Stormtrooper bikes? And that one dude, that element I was telling you about, they power their weapons with it. So when Black Adam is trying to stop one, they kind of zip past them and at one point through them. So it's very weird technology, but it's really cool. Superman, a bad
which I mean, if you're familiar with Intergang from the comics, you know that Intergang soup themselves up with magic and technology and basically anything else they can get their hands on. So that works.
And let's see. Rhaegar saying also, I think there might be somebody else from Earth that can take Black Adam. Well, of course, Shazam, but also Dr. Fate. He's right here. Yeah. Minor,
meaningless fanboy gripe with regards to Dr. Fate, though, for as much as I'm grateful for how they handled him here, they did not at all use the Ankh at all. And that is Dr. Fate's go-to symbol and the shape of his portals usually. So it was a little bit jarring that they didn't give him the Ankh portals. But again, that's me fanboying and griping.
He did have Ankh. He beat the shit out of Black Adam with an Ankh. So you had that. Henry always seemed so cool to me. I know, right? Let's see. What's this? What about the plot kids movie? Like she said, no. Oh, no.
Like I said, in the more intense part of this movie, Black Adam puts Homelander to shame.
He liquefies a guy and dusts him at the same time. It was, yeah, this is not a this is a hard PG-13.
Yeah.
In all honesty. Granted, he's not running around with his dick out or yelling curse words or anything like that. It's all violence, and it's it's a very action. Like I said before, it's a very action.
It's the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object type shenanigans that are going on here.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I don't want to spoil too much. I mean, we did spoil it, like I said, up to that 40-minute mark, and of course the ending scene. But still, guys, go ahead.
I guess it is worth saying that the third act villain was absolutely unnecessary. There was enough philosophical tension that if they had dragged it out a little bit more between the JSA and Black Adam, that could have easily been the movie. But
yeah, but even still, when they were done with it, it was like I said, it was an emotionally satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, it worked. So, yeah,
I will say this though, it was still badass.
Yeah.
The ending fight with Sabak, that was still freaking badass.
I didn't enjoy this movie as much as I did enjoy Multiverse of Madness, but it's very much cut of the same cloth, where there are a lot of little technical issues, but there's so much cool and so much satisfying stuff in the movie that you honestly find yourself making excuses for the technical errors.
Yeah. I know someone, Earth, you have not mentioned that can beat Shazam. Bendis. Yeah, he destroyed the DC universe.
Yeah,
Bendis is right up there with the Anti-Monitor.
Yeah, Bendis is an avatar of Necron at this point. He desires to kill and enslave every part of the DC universe.
Did we mention the villains at all? In all honesty, it's Intergang, and then at the very end, it's Sabak. For most of it, when you see the fights, it's Black Adam, like the beginning is Black Adam versus Black Adam versus Intergang, then it's Black Adam versus JSA.
It's a clash of ideals between the JSA
it's what Batman v Superman should have been.
Yeah. It's a clash between the JSA wanting to be classical heroes and Black Adam wanting to fudge the moral lines because he just doesn't give a crap. It's very similar to the famous is it Superman versus the Elite, and then the comic was What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. It's very similar to that relationship between that group and Superman's ideals, except it's inverted, where the group has the heroic ideals and Black Adam is just like, well, I have all the power and I say what's moral, so out of my way.
I did like the fact that it was thrown in their face that, the people like Black Adam, this is not your country, get the hell out. I like that aspect of it because there's something to it. When I saw the Civil War and they were, and they were like, you're going into different countries. We need you a little bit more on a leash. I actually was like, yeah, actually that's true.
Yeah.
What gives you the right to cross over borders and start destroying things and beat people up?
Like I said, this is how you use philosophy and or politics in a superhero story without making it a moralistic propaganda piece.
Exactly. But it was done well. I liked the fact that it was more of a clash of ideas that led to violence rather than just the physical of it. It's so much better than actually what I thought it was going to be because of what I saw on the Rotten Tomatoes and such like this. I'm pretty sure you're going to get the usuals who are going to tell you it sucks balls and all that kind of stuff. Let them hate.
I haven't seen anything from them yet, so maybe not. Maybe they'll skip out on this one.
Yeah. Go check it out yourself. I hope you have as much fun with it as I did, as Dalton did. If you're gonna look for stuff that to hate on, yeah, there's stuff to hate on. I'll say, like I said, it's
a clunky movie, but it's a lot like Multiverse of Madness. If you can vibe on,
better than no, it's so much better than Multiverse of Madness.
I disagree with you there, but my point is, if you can vibe on the style and on the weirdness and on the cool stuff, and overlook the clunky writing and the
Hold on,
occasional
I've got
weird
to
shots
address
and
something
so on.
because someone's being dumb in my chat. She actually said call in favors. She actually used the word, could you do a favor? Nobody works for fucking nobody. All right. If you didn't watch the film, and by that I mean when you were sitting in, if you were looking for shit to fucking complain about, sorry, this ain't the place.
I.e., if you're not
It's in the
paying
fucking
attention.
movie. It's in the fucking movie. They don't work for him. Okay. So you're, oh, well, so what you're saying, what you're doing is, well, actually, and well, actually fucking pisses me off. Well, actually, no, there was no well, actually. She said favors. She called in a fucking favor.
And to be fair, this is entirely consistent with Amanda Waller's character. She is the bureaucrat who pulls strings.
You can either speak honestly or get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Because I don't like it and I don't need it. I don't like the well actually crowd. I don't like the fucking troll crowd. You don't like it. You got honest shit to say it. But otherwise, get the fuck out. I don't give a fuck anymore. I've been doing this for far too freaking long. Okay? I'm sorry, but she actually freaking said, I'm going to call in some favors.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
If you want to criticize the movie for the things it did wrong, like some of the script issues or some of the shots were weird and there were some ADR shenanigans and stuff.
It's just, it's so fucking stupid.
It's the difference between making genuine criticism and bullshitting.
There's things in this movie that actually deserve criticism. So, I mean, if you actually have a criticism, by all means, let's hear it. But to lie like that, oh my goodness gracious.
It's the same issue I had with Multiverse of Madness. Yes, you can criticize Michael Waldron for not being good at writing the thing, but there are so many points that people raised to criticize Multiverse of Madness that either were explained in the very same scene that this person is whining about, or if you paid attention to the other movies, would take all of 5 seconds to figure out on your own.
Oh, but never mind. Now Vix is actually asking a decent question here. Is Amanda Waller a villain? No, she's not. She is, however, a government bureaucrat that makes a lot of hard and sometimes bad decisions.
She fills honestly kind of the same role as Nick Fury if Nick Fury
had balls.
Grade the line a little bit more. And honestly, with regards to what somebody said earlier about you wish that Amanda Waller was fat, what I would do with Amanda Waller by way of Viola Davis is I wish they kind of did with her what they do with Kingpin and have her have that extra weight but have it be muscle. Because Amanda Waller is the kind of person who will fuck you up if you don't do as you're told.
Now, here's the thing. I always considered her a villain, says Rhaegar. That's how she strikes me, by her moral actions. But once again, she's got to make a lot of bad decisions. And she's got not bad decisions, but hard decisions. I've never seen Waller as a straight up villain before.
No.
But I can see her as somebody who abuses her power a bit.
Well, what it is, and they explain this very well in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, is she had her people run some simulations to figure out what would happen if superheroes ever went rogue, and then she crapped herself when she realized just how up the creek without a paddle they were, and then she takes steps to equalize normal humanity in relation to these, demigod level superheroes and gods among men.
I have to admit, maybe you'll see me as the villain of this particular story as well, because when the Civil War first came on, I didn't go, oh, which side are you on, Captain America or Iron Man? I was like, wait a second, I'm not either of those two guys. So who I'm the guy that's driving to work and all of a sudden some freaking superhero throws something onto my car, it's crushed. Do I survive that? Do I not survive that? Does my family survive that? So what do I want? I want people trained. I
Yeah.
don't think it's a smart thing for somebody to have an origin and this burst out shooting fire rays all over the city. So I was like, yeah, I'm actually on the side of making sure that these people are trained. That they, I mean, like if you're a cop,
Well, but that's
be
the
a cop.
problem. That's the problem with storylines like Civil War. They always play it in the stupidest, most pro-government, anti-government way possible, instead of
Yeah, it was.
actually having the discussion of,
I
given
thought
this world.
I thought that the beginning of Civil War was so much better at the end when they made clear hero and villain. So what do you think is next for Henry Cavill Superman? Well, fingers crossed. I mean, like it's been so long since we actually got a Superman movie. I don't know what would be next. Obviously, they're going to give him a movie, but how's it going to go? Is it going to be a Lex Luthor film? Are they actually going to bring back what's his name from BVS? I hope not.
Eisenberg.
Yeah, it's just that I'll tell you, this is what I think, Vic. As far as what do I think anyway? I think we're going to get one of the most interesting Superman films because this will be the first time that Superman is truly let off of his comic book chain. Like Man of Steel, like it or hate it, Zack Snyder decided he was going to do a more grounded Superman. That doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, the Randian objectivist bullshit is just.
I loved the Superman Returns because for the first time we got to see Superman
who actually
really
has his powers.
Yeah. God. Hey, look, Christopher Reeve is Superman. He didn't play him. He is Superman. The bus scene, the carrying the freaking top of the Washington Monument, picking up the freaking San Andreas Fault. There's so many great scenes in those two movies, but they
get let down by the fact that we just don't have the way to do it.
When Superman Returns was made, it was at a time where comic book movies were dark and they weren't willing to go all comic book on us. But since then, they have been. And I think one of the downfalls of Man of Steel is they still tried to keep it grounded. But since then, Marvel, this is something they did well, embrace the comic bookness. The TV shows embrace the comic bookness. So I think that the very next film, we could possibly see Parasite. We could possibly see Metallo. We could possibly see something from the comics.
I'd like to see Brainiac finally, please.
Oh,
I want
wouldn't
Brainiac.
that be nice? Yes. Yes. Angleton should test for the role of Lex Luthor. Well, considering that 0 to 60 I just pulled on you, and I do apologize. I get a little emotional sometimes. Maybe so. Maybe I can play the villain. And once again, I apologize for the 0 to 60.
How old is Clancy Brown now? Because honestly,
I know, right?
he probably could just do it in live action at this point, and all of the kids who grew up in the 90s and 2000s would piss themselves with joy if Clancy Brown played Lex Luthor in live action.
Let's see. In my humble power, superpowers falls under the Second Amendment. Huh. That's interesting. Well, I wouldn't figure it to be like you couldn't treat it like a gun because it is you. But I'm not talking about people who have superpowers and just live life. I'm talking about people who go out to fight crime.
In the process, occasionally level cities or buildings or what have you.
If you're somebody who wants to go out and to stop crime and such like that, you would have to get trained. So when you're out there, maybe you don't have a lot of collateral damage.
In the immortal words of Stan Lee, with great power comes great responsibility, therefore.
And Billy Zane passed away? Did I hear that right? Was that today?
Did someone put that in the chat?
Yeah, Chrononaught. But yeah, I actually, why would you say no Brainiac? The Brainiac I want is the Brainiac in that mini series, and you saw it as a movie. I think it was called Superman Unchained or Unleashed or something like that. Mm-hmm. Holy crap, that's such a great film. And it's the Brainiac. Basically, if you saw Injustice 2, the kind of computer, his whole ship is him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my two favorite Superman villains are Brainiac and Mr. Mixius Pitlink. And someday I do hope we build up to a Mr. Mixius Pitlink. But barring Mr. Mixius Pitlink, which this would be too early to introduce him,
Oh,
I want
Clancy Brown.
Brainiac.
Okay. Did Clancy Brown die? I did not know that. I mean, that's something to look up.
I'm sad now. Because
hold on. Let's check this out. When did he? Clancy Brown doesn't. I'm checking his IMDb page. It would say right there if he did or not. I've got so much stuff open. No, he's still alive and kicking.
Yeah, no, he's. I was gonna say because he was Surtur in Thor Ragnarok, which wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. But yeah, look. They'll probably bring in Lex Luthor. But if they bring in Lex Luthor, please don't make it Jesse Eisenberg. But he can also be the catalyst that brings on Parasite or Metallo, as I mentioned. Or since they've got Intergang, there was.
I mean, they had Luthor fiddling around with Kryptonian technology in BDS, so that is a catalyst for Brainiac to become aware of things.
The problem I have is they could have built up for Doomsday, and they really could have done that story
a death of
properly.
Superman that's worthy of the name, but instead now it's they did the same thing with Dark Knight Returns. It's like we could have had two really awesome movies, one of which was Dark Knight Returns, and the other of which was Death of Superman. But instead, they are now two halves of a really really subpar version of both of them.
BVS, man, I like that film. I do. In parts, it's like I don't know. I like the extended version, but anytime I think about what we lost because of that movie,
the other main problem with BVS is it's titled BVS, but the actual fight is barely 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and honestly, if you tell me we're making a Batman versus Superman movie, I'm expecting something on par with Dragon Ball Z fight scenes or the chicken fights from Family Guy. That is the kind of fight you need to have if you're doing a Batman versus Superman.
It's the and they need to come at it like this movie was, like Black Adam was. Black Adam, Hawkman and Black Adam fought, but it was over the morality of it. Hawkman didn't like Black Adam killing all the time, and it brought him to fighting. It brought him to
blows.
Yeah, it made it worth it. I really don't want to spoil the rest of the movie. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool. Do yourself a favor and go check it out. I thought he was going to say something like on par with Freddy versus Jason. Hey, at least that fight lasted a while, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jason kicked his ass.
Which, debatably, he shouldn't have, but that's another story.
He kicked his ass. Well, he was in the real world. Of course he should have.
Yeah, but that's part of the problem. Having Freddy fight in the real world instead of being able to use his powers is such a it's like when people I've gotten into arguments with people who say the versus stories don't matter because it always is dependent on who the writer likes the most. And I'm like, yeah, but it shouldn't be. It should be dependent on the characters and their power sets and their ability to use their power sets and who would win. The goal of these versus stories is to try and be as objective as possible to determine whose power sets trump whose or whose skill sets trump whose in these situations. I.e., if one of your combatants is Freddy freaking Krueger, you need to have at least one scene in the dream realm so he has access to his full powers.
And Freddy kicked Jason's ass in the dream world. But when they pulled him out, when it was real, it was Jason. Now, granted, Freddy kicked some ass too, but in the end, who carried whose freaking severed head out of the lake?
Unstoppable zombie versus.
I remember the day.
Demon infused ghost.
The evening. It was a midnight showing. Me and my friends went and saw it, and everybody was talking. who do you like? Who do you think? Who do you think? Who would you think would be? And my point was always in the dreaming, obviously Freddy, but in the real world, it's got to be Jason. And afterwards, I kept hearing, yeah, but he winked. He winked. His severed fucking head winked. I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
Jason carried out a severed head.
Yeah,
that
to be fair, no one was expecting either of them to actually perma-die because neither of them perma-dies. It's a thing. But that's neither here nor there. We've gotten off into the weeds.
I would like to point out that neither one of them have shown themselves in movies except for a freaking reboot. So that's perma freaking severed head Freddy. Okay, that wasn't a wink. That was just a muscle thing. Okay,
until they decide to pick up the story where they left off, which they will at some point, I'm sure.
Freddy smiled at the end. No, Freddy didn't smile at the end. Freddy's severed head smiled at the end. Jason wins. I heard that.
Okay,
so
but we got off into the weeds there a bit.
Well,
short version is please see Black Adam so that we can get a Justice Society movie in future and a prequel Dr. Fate movie in future, please, because Dr. Fate movie when is my rejoinder with regards to this.
Aquaman and Wonder Woman had solo sequels, so Metallo Parasite seems possible. I hope so too. I want to see comic book characters. That I think that would just be a lot of fun. I loved Aquaman. I loved Wonder Woman. Those are two of my favorite superhero films. I don't know where this one falls. Like, I loved watching it. I'm going to see this again.
Yeah, well, where are you putting it in terms of a number grade?
Because if you're talking about favorite films, this might actually show up higher on a list. But when you're talking about the best, you're dealing with Wonder Woman and Aquaman, the Zack Snyder Justice League. You're talking about the Joker, Superman,
Suicide Squad 2,
Superman 78, Superman 2, Catwoman. You're talking about all these great freaking movies that
and also Catwoman. Yeah. Apparently.
Yeah, I know. I just threw
that. Why you put that on the list?
I was saying if you were listening. Point being is that with all those great movies, even though I like this film, it's still not going to be, it won't be even be in the top 5, but it's still a good movie because look, you got, like I said, Superman 78, you got the Joker, you got the Batman this year, Suicide Squad 2, Wonder Woman, Aquaman right there. I could probably name, so.
Yeah. And where I'm sitting with it is, I again think this is in the same ballpark as Multiverse of Madness, whereby it's a really cool, really interesting movie that I really fanboyed for, but it's very clunky. There's a lot of execution errors, there's writing errors, and it cripples itself in execution. I will say, however, that I don't enjoy this movie as much as I enjoyed Multiverse of Madness. I think Multiverse of Madness is better than this movie. But that being said, given especially the caliber of DCEU movies, it's still 6 out of 14 at the moment. So
as far as superhero films are concerned, yes, this is better than everything in Phase 4. My only omission to that would probably be Spider-Man No Way Home. I do find this movie's easier to watch than Spider-Man. Spider-Man's got a lot of baggage. It's a lot to drag it down. I'm telling you, this movie is like, okay, let's talk for the next 6 minutes and fight. It's very much like that.
It's gonna age a lot better, I think. It's gonna be one of those movies that gets undersold here and now, and then in 5 years, it's gonna be viewed very, very positively. That being said, where we put it number-wise, Angleton, you want to go first?
Number-wise? No. I don't. I'm not even prepared for that.
Oh, you're not?
As far as a number for the movie, yeah, I have no. Oh no, you mean the rating? The rating.
Yeah, in terms of where we're rating it. Yeah.
Goodness, you know what? I'll have to think about that a little bit, but I'd give this an 8 or a 9. It's either very, very good or on the bottom of excellence.
I'd give it a 7. It's good. But like I say, there are a lot of clunkiness, and in terms of just sheer cool factor, it doesn't go nearly as much into the cool factor as Multiverse of Madness did for me. But that being said, it will forever get saving graces from me by not focusing on the possession retcon and by understanding that Kent Nelson being Dr. Fate is important to the character. It's not just a meat puppet for Naboo. So, given how poorly Dr. Fate is treated all the frickin' time, even in the comics, it gets points for me for not massacring my boy. And also, it does a pretty good job of putting Black Adam somewhere in the general vicinity of Homelander or Omni-Man in terms of just sheer I am unstoppable, therefore I do not give a fuck.
For me, I'm saying 8, which is a high good, or 9, which is a low excellence, because I'm thinking of it emotionally more than I am, intellectually. And emotionally, I was riding a freaking high. When I got out of that, I was like, we have seen so many freaking Marvel movies. And I got to tell you, I've been like with Thor, I watched it. I enjoyed it. And that's about as much as I had. Like I walked out, I was like, yeah, that was enjoyable. But then when I watched it with my wife later, I walked away. Or at least I came over here while she's watching it, right? And I started doing other things. I was bored by it. Same thing, in all honesty, with Doctor Strange, which I enjoyed better than Thor, but I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I did in the theater because gosh, I don't know what it was. It would just seemed like a drag. Like it's one of those freaking race cars with a parachute on the back to slow it down.
Mm-hmm. The thing for me is that Multiverse of Madness, every time I watch it, it gets a little bit better, in my opinion. So
that's different.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Black Adam is going to be that same way. So and like I said, it doesn't go quite as hard into the cool factor as Multiverse of Madness did, because that was, Lovecraftian B horror Sam Raimi-ness to the max and everything, and that was glorious.
The thing with this one though is I can see myself watching this movie more just based on the pacing. That being said, it might be that all that action and everything can drag it down. Right now, I do got to admit I'm reacting more emotionally than I am intellectually, and I was just riding a high that I wasn't on Thor. Now, granted, I think I'm remembering Doctor Strange a little bit more harshly. I think I like that one better.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, I walked out of like, holy shit. Was great.
Hannibus, just to be clear, what I'm defending is Multiverse of Madness, not the first Doctor Strange. The first Doctor Strange movie was quite bad, and I still maintain that the 2007 animated version of Doctor Strange was better than the 2016 one. But Multiverse of Madness was a massive improvement on the Doctor Strange mythos within the MCU. Black Adam
is a hell of a lot of fun. So, like I said, it's around the 8, around the 9. I did. Before we started today, I did actually go about and making, I'm going to be making the tier list finally. And I've got every one of the DC Comics live action movies all set and ready. We'll do it on Sunday.
Sunday.
Yep, we're going to be doing we're going to do a tier list, every live action. So that's 28, 38, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47 films. And yes, I did include Atom Man versus Superman and the Mole Men, Superman versus the Mole Men. So I did include the very first 2 movies and didn't start with Batman 66. I know at least one person who saw those movies, and I'll rate them if nobody else.
Yeah. Also, we have to finish our horror tier list at some point here.
Yeah, that's true. We'll have to find a time for that as well. But guys, thanks for hanging out with us once again. Sorry for going 0 to 60 on Vic a little earlier. Sorry. But guys, do yourself a favor, see Black Adam, and if we're full of crap, put that we're full of crap in the comments. We're okay with it.
Yeah, please feel free to disagree, but come with an argument as to why you disagree, not just because reasons.
It's more respected that way. And yeah, if you agree, let us know as well. Random question: do you think Atom Smasher versus Ant-Man would be a good fight? I do, sir.
Atom Smasher would wear Ant-Man like a scarf, though.
I will say this. Also, a little bit ago, they've been putting out these books. It's like Black Adam, Justice Society, Hawkman was the last one. They did put out a Black Adam, Justice Society, Atom Smasher book about a month ago. Do yourself a favor. Check that book out. It's really cool. Fingers crossed we get an Atom Smasher book, but more likely it'll be Batman Presents Atom Smasher. So whatever. Anyway, once again, thanks for hanging out with us, Dalton. These are always fun. Check out the movie channel and Old Man Comics if you haven't done that already. As always, thank you very much for your support, and thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night, kids.
Cheers, guys.